I suppose one of the good things about being away for a while is that a lot of things compile and they build up, and you get kind of a broader sense of things that. Oh, look at that.
Good things about being away.
Also, too, you end up. Oh gosh, where am I going here? So also too, you see, I get a bit rusty, and with being rusty, I suppose it can be said that something like this is a bit like a bike, or it's like like any other skill. And that skill would be kind of parsing things together in a coherent narrative on off the cuff like this. Certainly from this start, that would be something really important in terms of this argument. Hello, everyone in the chat. That's wonderful. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see all of you as well. I'm so very happy to see everyone. I did take some time off, and I needed it, and I think it was pretty well deserved. And one of the things about taking that kind of time off, like I said, is things do build up, but it was amazing and surprising the way it built up, and it built up in a way that I didn't quite expect, and the timing of it was really perfect, because as soon as I went out and I took, I don't know, just over a week off, maybe 10 days, something like that. I don't know, somewhere around there. We had this groundbreaking Mandela Effect, you know, change with NECs coming out with their video, and I included all that in the description here. And it made me feel really good about a company like this talking about their products in such a honest way and dealing with it, because one of the more important points about NECs is, and the way they spoke about this products is, oftentimes, particularly whenever you're dealing with names like that, they go in these little things called lookup tables, and oftentimes those tables, for the most part, are relatively static. And whenever you have a key, which is sort of like, you draw a line from one table to another, and the keys, what they do is they bind those tables together. So immediately, whenever you have like a new invoice, or you have some other piece of data come in, and it binds it to, let's say, like they brought up the Haas avocados, immediately that will go on that invoice right away. And that's oftentimes, it's the front end will put it in the form of some kind of like a report, or something like that, and then it'll be printed up and it'll be sent out, or it'll be sent through whatever means like email. So it was very, very important that NECs came out and started to talk about these kinds of things. And yet we now have more data compiling from the quote unquote legitimate world. We have from yours truly, we do have a doctor, an internal medicine doctor, palliative care. We have the pilot, we have NECs, and we have just a host of other clinicians and other kinds of people between myself and Vanessa VA's channel. I think one of her more provocative interviews was from way early on, and it was with a nurse. And she wanted to remain anonymous. So it's bravo. And I too, in a lot of ways, remain anonymous as well. I remain in the shadows because I have to, because it's so taboo. And especially when you're dealing with people's data, it's such a sensitive subject. And I've often thought about it, but I never voiced it. And NECs, it's emboldened me to voice this, because I didn't want to be a channel that adds to people's fears. I don't want to be a channel that engages in that constantly makes you feel as if you're on the edge of something horrific. But it is something that we do have to face, because if any NECs felt emboldened enough to come out and talk about these kind of data anomalies that are happening within their systems, then we know that their upstream systems as well as their downstream systems, because you have to understand the way IT works. You have a broad web of nodes, and each node, is a corporation, or it's some sort of group that handles data, massages data, creates data, sends data to different areas through replication, mirroring, all kinds of other other means that you can deal with data. And the fact that NECs felt emboldened to come out in a way that they did, that means that their upstream as well as their downstream clients were also feeling the ramifications of what they were feeling. Now, so far, that's in the produce industry, which is already that in itself is dangerous. But I fear, just like what my doctor interview uncovered, as well as the pilot interview, I feel I wonder about those systems that are critical systems, such as whether they're martial systems in terms of police or judicial or life and death systems like that, clinical things like that. It really makes you think. And hi everyone in the chat. Everyone's here. I see a lot of the regular crew, and I appreciate everybody being patient with me. Right, air traffic, exactly, Dirk. Mira, thank you. Dead GPK, as always. I don't want to get into individual because I see everyone here. You know who you are, and I really appreciate all of you. And thank you so much for the kind words and just giving me the time to take a break. It was all getting to be a bit much, and sometimes even if it's something that you enjoy and it's something that is really a part of your life, sometimes it's good just to step away for a while. And certainly, I felt as if I needed to do that to kind of recharge the batteries and come to it. Even people who have jobs that they absolutely love and adore, they still have to take a vacation sometimes. Well, thank you, Stacy. I appreciate that. Lisa, I saw your comments on other channels as well, and I do appreciate you bringing me up. Truly, thank you for that. And so, yeah, hospitals, absolutely, Dirk Myra, absolutely. So we have a host of things going on right now, major things, and things that are a little bit ubiquitous. We're not really seeing. Everything's a bit opaque right now, right? And we're not really seeing the real truth, but I guess if you're involved in this kind of thing long enough, you get kind of enough of those glimpses of the truth that you kind of understand. It's a bit like whenever we started to feel all of the moon madness. I included in the description not only the NECs stuff, we also still have, my favorite one is 50 years on. What was that from? I think it was the CBC. 50 years ago, we flew to the moon. Here's why we can't do that today. Need I say more? And then, of course, we have with the moon, the Earth's atmosphere extends beyond the moon. It's something about the moon. It's always about the moon. I mean, obviously, with the recent confirmation / disclosure of the UAP UFO phenomena, we can say now that we've swung the doors open on the possibilities that are open out there in terms of what it means to be human. And one of the more profound questions that you can ask besides what's after death is being answered in real time in front of us. And that's, are we alone? And with that, though, it's almost as if a trade-off is happening. There's like this trade-off happening, that a broader truth is descending upon us, and other truths that were more minor in a way are starting to crumble and fall away. My favorite, about the moon being in Earth's atmosphere, or the fact that we can never go back to the moon. They have this in the space.com. I have it in the description here. This is actually a quote, and they're talking about, quote, at that time, the astronauts on the lunar surface did not know they were actually embedded in the outskirts of, and it's basically the Earth's atmosphere. So they're actually making up an excuse for why they were able to do this impossible feat now. So I'm assuming that I didn't bother reading beyond that, because really at this point, it got to where I didn't bother reading a lot of really fringy kind of stuff. And now it's getting to the point that it's so absurd. Mainstream media coverage in any way is so absurd. And the excuses are so obtuse that it's not even really worth diving into, at least sometimes. Now, real-time coverage of things, obviously, obviously are important. The last 24 hours, we've had some sort of shadow game going on that we don't know exactly what's happening, but it all started with this headline that I saw that got everybody riled up. Pence recalled to the White House as Putin pulls out of scheduled event. Officials say no cause for alarm. Naturally, it escalated to Trump. He was over in Korea, North Korea, well, South Korea, crossing into North Korea. And the Sun reported, and I have that as well in the description. Mysterious UFO spotted over Korea DMZ just hours after Trump's historic visit to meet Kim Jong-un, causing fighter jets to be scrambled. So it's very interesting. It's very mysterious. And of course, during all this, you've got to have an eclipse that happened, I believe, yesterday in South America, so in the southern hemisphere. And with all of that, naturally, we had the 3-foot plus in Guadalajara and I believe in Mexico City of the snow-like ice pack that came raining down, in the form of these huge, just these balls of ice, right? And yeah, 3 feet here. Mexican City wakes up to 3 feet of ice following freak hailstorm. And and of course that's from the hill. So it's like a mix of this odd combination of reality and meta reality and fiction, and all of it's weaving together in this bizarre strain that I'm not exactly sure how it fits together yet. And I'm not exactly sure that I'm too plugged into how it's supposed to all work together. Obviously, it's some kind of bizarre array where reality itself gets to kind of pick and choose from the buffet from which we see. And yes, Jennifer, she's absolutely right. Please do that. Subscribe, hit like, and for the people that don't prefer, or I guess what was it? I was begging for likes and begging for subscriptions, or whatever the other mini critiques that I get. I guess the best the best advice I can offer is there's literally a million other channels out there. And heaven knows there's enough other Mandela Effect channels out there. None quite like this, I would contend. However, I still consider every ME out there a brother and a sister, because we're all going through this and we know exactly what it feels like to experience something like this. And whether it's in your private or your professional life, it does matter. And putting all these things together helps you understand sort of the metatext that's happening all around us. And that's really what matters, right? That's really why we're all here, you know? I do believe some of it is ritual in nature, but just like I was saying about all communication being propaganda, I do believe every little movement we do in our own way is a ritual, and it's designed to move reality in some way to our will. It's just a matter of whether or not someone else is able to perceive what you're doing. And I'm not entirely sure these choices are entirely binary. I know some arguments out there. If there were to be some sort of massive disclosure or massive change in our overall consciousness, and if it were to be swift and immediate, I know people have already supposed that perhaps it could be some kind of larger deception. And this kind of narrative has been going on for a long time. And surely that has some kind of merit. But even something like that, because you lie to a population so many times, there's only there's finally a tipping point, a breaking point with a particular population where they have enough and they don't believe anything that you throw at them. So certainly, if and I'm seeing, I have up here. Oh, and by the way, there is a great Air Force One hold pattern at Andrews over in Dover. And by the way, going back to the last 24 hours with this whole White House thing. And part of the rumor mill with that, now this is just a rumor. I'm not broadcasting breaking news or something. These are just deep down in the subreddits, and then you really have to look for it. There was people talking, and I haven't seen any backup of this in the last 12 hours or so, but late last night that there were people talking as if there was a firefight between Russia and the US, and a US sub was sunk. I don't believe it because I don't see any other evidence for that, and I don't see anyone else backing up something like that. And inevitably with things like this, when there's something massive like that, um, it will, you know, invariably it will slip out. It will get out. There's no way to. There's just too many leaks out there, especially with the technology the way that we have it right now. So right now, as it stands, I know that the information is out there. I'm aware of that kind of information, but I don't particularly believe it. I would have to see much more than 3 or 4 off-brand websites that I'm not very familiar with make these kinds of claims and having, connections to DC. Everybody seems to have their connections to DC or something. So I'm going to go ahead and throw on my skeptic cap, even though I hate wearing that cap. And I have to say that I'm not entirely convinced that this is actually what's happening. So I'm going to put that and shelve that there, and you can decide for yourself what you think what's what. So there you go. Moving on anyway, going back to the arguments of if there were to be some sort of massive shift in consciousness, via an extraterrestrial invasion or something like that, or a football length field like mothership coming down with little orbs circling around it or something like that. I mean, I know the references to projects before, but I'm not entirely sure we've reached those levels of technology, at least the way that I've seen those hard right turns being taken. And I know as recently as like last week, one of my favorite YouTube channels to go to for people that are actually experts in this world, this UFO world, which I'm not. I'm a casual observer, and until I was contacted, I didn't by human, not by a UFO or anything, or an ET. I was contacted by a human. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to that world. I thought it was interesting, but it wasn't something that captivated my attention. But anybody new to the channel, it was around mid-April that I was contacted by an anonymous government contractor saying that this was going to be heating up and that I need to start talking about it. And they gave me a certain set of predictions. I sent out some of those predictions, and long story short, 2 of the predictions were right on, and one still has yet to come to fruition. Will it come to fruition? I have no idea. I don't have any kind of knowledge or insider information. I just know since then I've had to ratchet up my own security and my own cybersecurity in terms of the precautions that I have to take in order to make conversations like this happen. And there's more other, yes, interdimensional. And that's another thing too about these. A lot of people think that, and I've seen other UFO but particularly Mandela Effect stations or channels talk about seeing things that look as if they're not really fully invested in this dimension. It's as if these things are holograms. And I would remind anyone and anybody here, I'm seeing a lot of very familiar faces that I would say that you have to remember, if you go back again to the gateway process, this reality is a hologram. And consciousness is the seed from which that it's moved. And quantum physics now, from what they're really able to talk about, they absolutely are saying that. And it's just a matter of keeping up with, the white papers and what they're actually saying, well, what's possible now with quantum physics. So it's very much a case that we are holograms. So in order to understand that, you might see a commercial jet that looks kind of like a hologram. That could very well be the way that reality is constructed, that indeed it's not like Project Bluebeam. It's not, any of these other top secret conspiracy / whatever. It could be something that is kind of transposed here, and it's maybe reflective inside of another dimension, and we can actually see it here. And really, if you really actually take the time to look into the science, that's 30 plus years old. And you don't even have to look into the science. You can look into the meta science that's being talked about within FBI.gov or CIA.gov. And they're trying to use it for, intelligence gathering or law enforcement applications. You don't even have to actually, you can look into the patents that are out there. You actually don't even have to look into the physics literature if you think that's too boring. You can just look in the patent information. You can look in the National Archives. You can go to CIA.gov. And this channel, if you just take the time, we've got 2 years worth of links that will lead you where you need to go. It's all there. We've got a playlist to start you off, a kind of 101 playlist. So to those folks who talk about airplanes or seeing things in the air that don't really look as if they're physical, that may be the case, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a hologram that we've created. And that's my counter to that it's a possibility. But then again, I do understand, and I do fully accept that our government has lied to us on a consistent basis, probably since the very beginning. Um, there's just noted cases, Gulf of Tonkin, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. So I'm not being, I'm not going to be an apologist for the United States government. However, I will say not everything is the United States government or any world government. It's not always their fault. There could be something that's outside of their ability. I mean, they're not gods. They do not have godlike power, or they control the the very nature of existence itself. There is still natural law. Every cell in our body they still have these antennae. We're ghosts in the machine, like I always say. We're being projected into this machine. So in order to say that individuals within the government or some kind of meta species that's beyond the human experience are in control and have always been in control, I think it's a little bit defeatist. And I also think it's understood. I get it, because it's part of being, we've been lied to for so long. So I understand what you're saying. But I also understand too that there are leaps in consciousness, and they don't happen slowly sometimes. Sometimes, like in technology, there'll be this long drag of 100 and 150 years or something. And then there'll just be, it's like the Schumann resonance. Just be a spike that's off the chart. And sometimes something like that happens as well with our consciousness, just like there is with technology. And perhaps we're at the very beginning stages of that spike in our consciousness, where we re-understand what it means to be a human being, where we re-understand our true selves that are beyond the suit that we're given. I mean, one day we're all going to leave this form, and it can't be. I'm not, at least me. I'm not. How about that? I'm not going to just that's it. And it's the government, it's the man, it's whatever, trying to get another one over on me, even though it's happened to me before. Because if that's the case, then it's really over in terms of the exploration. It's really over in terms of any kind of power that I have, because in a small way you're ceding the power to them. You're ceding your autonomy to them. And perhaps too that could explain a lot of the rise of this idea of indulging in one's individual autonomy while still at the broader, at the broader state. We all demand that there be a more rigid consensus that has to be met. And as dissolving consensus dissolves around this reality, it does sort of make sense that so many people who would consider themselves a more progressive kind of person demand a more frigid way in which we approach both government and the way we govern ourselves. Because really, government is just an idea that's actually carried out by individuals, you see. There's really no such thing. There is no real government. What it is a series of individuals that govern each other at the local level, at the very local level. And by local, I don't mean your county or your city. I mean individuals that are in your space, in your visible space. And you are the police. You know, you're the government. So I'm looking in here what everyone's saying in the chat. Let's see, where are all the thumbs up? Yeah, exactly. We have over 100 watching. Let's get some thumbs up here. Let's see. What do we have here? I think Eric says the movie The Arrival had some neat things to say about time and life. I do too. I agree with you, Stacy. Hello. Right, the joy of the human experience is entirely within you. That's right. And I'm afraid, I'll admit it, with all these things going on, Air Force One, it's being circled around Dover yesterday, with all of these strange rumors going on. There was fear there. And then finally I had to let it go. And the reason why I had to let the fear go, because I knew that, like I talked about before, you'll look at an old picture. Maybe it's of relatives over 100 years ago, or it's really best to go to like an antique store, and sometimes they'll have a pile of pictures there and you can just look through them. People wearing top hats, or they're wearing those kind of straw hats that were really rigid looking, and everybody is in their Sunday best or whatever. And you think about all those people. It's an exercise that I do to kind of make me feel better. And I know that they're all dead. And that makes me feel much better, because I know that I'll be dead too. And whatever problems that I have right now, that also will pass. And in sort of the broader scope of we as human beings. And I know that a lot of people have died in my family, and I often think about when they died, all of the small things that had bothered them right up to their day of death, and how meaningless those things were, you know or some of the grievances you have. You hear it a lot, especially if it was someone that you didn't really settle things with. It's true, even though it sounds kind of cheesy, and you hear it a lot, that you wish you had just one moment back so you can settle that with them. It's a true thing. It's very true. And you see how small all of those things are. And it's a real powerful thing if you can make that balance. Let go, and yet not really let go in like a negative way, but let go in a really positive way. Because it's not really a fine line, actually, letting go, if you do it in that way. It's actually it's very different than a negative way of letting go, like you just don't care anymore and you're on a downward spiral. No, no, no. You very much understand that there are the things of the day that must be conquered. You must conquer every day. But also to know that the best you can give is the best you can give. And that's it. That's it. And the burden of the world is not on one person's shoulders. And it's not on your shoulders. And it's certainly not on my shoulders. And I'm very forgiving of everyone around me, in the past, in the present, and in the future, because I have this gnawing feeling that the past is alive. And I've said it before, it's aware of itself, just as we're aware that we are in the present. Right? My cat agrees. Right, Johnny? Right, exactly. So I'm very aware of that. And I'm certainly aware that just because I'm in modernity doesn't mean that this is it. This is the end of history, right? And perhaps the way we judge the past, we too may be judged the same way, right? So think about that, because people in the present, they seem to have this arrogance about them, that they are just the bee's knees and they've got it all figured out. And they point their finger and or they look to the future and the possibilities, they laugh and they scoff at the future, right? And yet here we stand, right? Here we stand. UFOs are real, right? We have no idea what kind of shadow work is happening around us in terms of the world governments. We have no idea if we came close to the end last night. Why did all the governments suddenly drop everything and they all go into immediate council? We don't know. We have no idea. Do we? You don't have any idea. Because I don't have, well, you may have any idea. And if you do, drop me a line. I keep secrets really, really well. But for the most part, we don't know. But I've been, on my Twitter feed, I've been sending out a lot of tweets that have been, that I thought were really, really important. And I know the Tom DeLonge tweet from the other day, trying to pull that up now. I know that ruffled a few feathers, but that's if you're really indulged in fear, and you got to get out of that. You got to get away from that, because I'm in it all the time. I feel anxiety. I feel fear. I understand that. But really what we're talking about is a future that's never going to come to us, right? Like this went up 7 hours ago from unidentified aerial phenomena. Change is coming. I put that up 4 hours ago. That was from 7 hours ago. Let's see if as I scroll down here. Oh yeah, everything's fine. And that was in Argentina. It was at 22 hours ago. Then on the 2nd, we talk about the UFO and the DMZ. Then Air Force One was turned around. I wonder if I don't know. I don't know the timeline of let's see here. Oh, and then we have Chris Mellon quoted. There are probably multiple phenomena going on. That was very important. I sent that out early on the 2nd, and that was from WGN Radio July 1st, and that's on my Twitter feed. That was pretty powerful stuff. So it seems like there's like kind of I feel as if there's kind of this prep work going on, perhaps. And to what I'm not entirely sure. And then I sent out a cat video because I love cats. Cats are very cool. And then also too, we see those videos of the hail. And then my favorite is futurism, which I found out to be kind of a fraud. I was so sad about futurism. It actually put this: if aliens came calling, how would you want humanity to react? So obviously there's an obvious process going on right now. It's very blatant. It's very open. I think it's very much a growing kind of a growing pattern. And what makes it so pronounced to people who don't understand the concept of dissolving consensus, I think, is that anytime that you get any kind of consensus, when the broader consensus is dissolving, it makes itself more pronounced. And for companies to start coming out and saying that their data is changing and they don't understand why their data is changing, I think that adds even more how pronounced this is. And I've been told that the Mandela Effect and the UAP UFO, it's all connected. And if we go back to the holographic universe, it's easy to see how nothing is in a vacuum, and it's easy to see how it is all a hologram, and it's all pushed together. And it's easy to see how you can send ripples through those ones and zeros and flip them from a 0 to a 1 or a 1 to a 0 and back and forth. Never mind the qubits, where you have an exponential jump in the leap as it goes on and on and on into infinity. And before you know it, you do finally get to see that the drain of that sort of Fibonacci swirl. That Fibonacci swirl that sends you out into eternity. Because ultimately, that's what we're talking about here. 55, 144, and 233s, they're all around us, right? And it's a constantly moving target. Thank you, Evil Monkey. There is super chats. I've done no work in terms of being practical with the channel with this time off. I should have been working on a Patreon. I've decided to put together, and I talked to Buster about it, about a Patreon. And so a few people have said that they wanted to help put a web page together and donate to it, because all the proceeds are going to go to the webpage. I've already talked to Chick and Buster, and we've all agreed to it. It's all going to go to a webpage in case we're ever taken down from YouTube. But also, too, it will be a place that people can go to, and you don't have to rely on me to see all the people that this community, this community. It's the same people I see all the time, and I really appreciate all of you. And I appreciate you guys giving me some breathing room when I needed it. So anyway, this is just me just jumping on for a few minutes and just saying I'm back. I appreciate it. As far as I know, the Lost and Found bin is on for Saturday. I'll be here. If something comes up, let me know. If you miss this live, that's okay. There'll be more. The channel is not over with. We are still here. We're still moving forward. Let's see what we have here. Going through here, I know I'm so fond of everybody. I'm so happy you're here. I have from the beginning the feeling that we are protected. Bit of Venom, I think you are correct. Hello, Mandy. Let's see. It's just the beginning. I do think it's just the beginning. Thank you, Tori. Yeah, I do think it's just the beginning no matter what. And I think let's see here. On some level everything is fake. Yeah, on some level everything has to be fake. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And just like on some level, we are the government, right? And it's not as if I think our form of governance is far more stable than we give it credit for in terms of, if you have a group of people that are intent on creating a disturbance of some sort, they're going to be able to do that. But the only way that they're going to be able to sustain a disturbance like that is if it's justified, and if it's in line with natural law and order that's beyond what we can manifest as individuals. Because karma will balance everything out, and the longer the injustice, the greater time that it's going to take to correct. And the longer you delay that kind of injustice and that kind of imbalance, right, the more painful it's going to be to correct. And there will become a kind of a snap where it's going to be, and you see I don't have to, I can give you numerous examples, but I'm not, throughout history, where the rubber band, it was just pulled too thin and it snapped back, and it did it really hard on a particular persons, civilizations, all of the above. So just getting back into the swing of things here. Forgiveness is freedom. Maybe. Let's see here. Well, Mr. Laugh, I'm glad to see you're back. Let's see here. I'm just reading you guys' stuff here. Let's see. I don't know who Dino Drums and Shoots is, but it says all. Reality is being manipulated because of a rogue one who's spilling the beans. I had knowledge in 2000 about absolute names and future events. I had no idea at the time. Now I know every person. Okay, noted. Come back and spend more time with us, Dino. Every future person in my life was revealed to me in 2000. All came from fruition from 2004 to the present. I mean, a lot of people do that, though, can do that. So, I mean, that can be done. That isn't too much out of the ordinary. It's just really spooky when it happens to you. It can be spooky whenever, we call it paranormal because we don't have a word for it yet. That's all. And that's not to put anything down that you're saying, Dino, but it things like that, divination and things like that have happened before. All your ideas and theories are wrong. Okay. Okay, Dino, if you're talking to me, you're wasting your time, but you can waste it with me and I can get your watch. That's fine. Yeah, everybody's talking about these in a couple weeks thing. Deep diving submarine found crystal dome. Who knows, Pete? Peter, sorry. Who knows? Maybe. Perhaps. Maybe. Let's see. I think if someone is saying something is wrong, it's because you know what is not wrong. But I don't think anyone really knows. Yeah. Good point, JW. It's not about protection. We are seeing one person spill the beans of truth. Few are listening. Who's that one person, Dino? Talk to me. Who's that one person who's spilling the beans? I mean, if you have all the answers, let me know, because I'd certainly love to have them. Because part of my thing is I don't have all the answers. All right, anyone. So, all right, everybody. So this is just me coming back and yeah, I was waiting for Dino to reply since Dino had some insight. Perhaps, Dino could share those since I'm completely wrong on everything. So lay it on me. JW, there you go. Nobody will freaking listen. Good luck. I'm out. Okay, Dino, peace out. JW. I don't know who JW is. Maybe someone else will know. Oh, there's a JW in there. In here. So JW, spill the beans, buddy. As Dino was saying. I think Dino was mad because his experience I don't think is as unique as maybe he thinks it is. If someone, I mean, people can tell you the future. I've seen it happen, and it can't. And it happens. Half of it is because the person is convinced it's going to happen. If you tell them this is what's going to happen to you, they can manifest it themselves. They'll do it themselves. They'll do a whammy on themselves, especially if they're open to suggestion. They will do a number on themselves. They will bend over backwards to make sure that it happens to themselves. I've seen it happen. But there are people who are very much so, they can see into quote unquote the future. So it's very real. There you go, Katarina. Exactly. Okay, Jehovah's Witness. I don't know. Maybe, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure. But look, anyway. I will be needing. Buster is the lead researcher for SMQAI and is the one of the main mods, as well as Angelia. But I'll be looking for one more mod, and it would have to be somebody that is that I know pretty well and I see in the chat all the time. So if you're up for it, Dino, I thought you were out of here, man. I thought you were gone. What's going on, Dino? Anyway, so if you're into it and you want to be a mod, let me know. Let me know through Twitter or something. Yeah, Buster's awesome. Stacy. Yeah, he's awesome. Yep. So anyway, anything else for us, Dino? Talk to me. Because I need to know. Okay. If not, I'm gonna go. No? Nothing? Okay. Okay, so probably not tomorrow unless something comes up. What is today? I'm gonna leave Dino alone, Eric. I promise. I promise. I'll leave Dino alone. I'll consider Dirk, definitely. Thanks, guys. Dirk, are you on Twitter? If not, it would help because I do a lot of communication. It's very hard. I'm not on Facebook, so a mod it would help to be on Twitter with me so we can DM privately and have private conversations. So if anybody's interested in being a mod, let me know on Twitter, and that would be great. So, all right, people, like it and share it, do all the stuff, and I'll talk to you soon. All right? Okay. Take it easy. Oh, check out the links. Check out the links.